Welcome to this explainer. As a gardener, there is absolutely nothing quite as frustrating as walking out to your prized plants and realizing something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. Today, we're putting on our botanical detective hats. We are investigating one of the most notorious and visually alarming culprits in the entire garden, rust. If you've spent any time at all nurturing plants, you've almost certainly crossed paths with this vibrant but destructive adversary. Today, we're going to figure out exactly how it operates.
Okay, let's dive into this. What exactly is turning your beautiful garden into a rusty, spotted mess? I mean, it literally seems to happen overnight, doesn't it? One day your foliage is this lush, vibrant green, and the next, it looks like it got caught in some localized iron-oxidizing rainstorm. To solve this mystery, we can't just react blindly. We have to systematically investigate the clues. Take a look at this classic garden crime scene. Notice those severe rust symptoms on the hydrangea leaf. You can see those chlorotic, yellowing patches spreading right across the surface, and they're bordered by those very distinct, dark, necrotic spots. It is incredibly easy to look at this and just panic, right? You might assume the whole plant is a lost cause. But before we start pulling up roots or tossing out our favorite shrubs, we really need to step back. A good detective doesn't guess, they follow a strict process.
That brings us to Section 1, the plant disease circle.
Before we can confidently point the finger at our primary suspect, we have to understand the entire universe of potential plant problems. Experts basically divide all garden damage into two distinct camps, and knowing the difference here is half the battle. We've got biotic and abiotic causes. Biotic factors? Those are the living causes of disease. Think of it as a rogues gallery of fungi, bacteria, viruses, and insects that are actively infecting or feeding on your plant. On the flip side, we have abiotic factors. These are your non-living stressors. We're talking severe drought, poor soil drainage, a surprise frost, or even chemical injury from lawn herbicides. In our line of work, we must always, and I mean always, rule out the non-living abiotic stressors first. Why? Well, a watering issue is usually much easier to fix, and it stops us from misdiagnosing a living infection when the plant is in reality just thirsty or sun-scorched.
Moving right along to Section 2, meet the suspect, rust.
Once we've safely ruled out the weather and the watering can, we enter the territory of living pathogens. Today, our prime biotic suspect is a living fungus that causes absolute havoc across a massive range of hosts. This is an organism that goes after trees, shrubs, grasses, fruits, vegetables, you name it. It truly does not discriminate. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it clears up a super common point of confusion. People mix up rust and russet all the time because, well, they sound alike. But rust, our culprit today, is defined by that distinct orange to brown fungal discoloration. It is an active pathogen. Russet, on the other hand, is an abnormally discolored, thick, rough skin formation that you usually see on fruits, tubers, or leaves. And actually, russeting can be caused by abiotic factors or even tiny pests like russet mites. So, we are explicitly hunting the fuzzy, orange-brown spots of the rust fungus, not the thick, leathery skin of russeting.
Now for Section 3, spotting the signs.
So what exactly does this look like out in the wild? We need to collect our visual evidence so you know exactly what to look for when you're patrolling your own backyard. Take a look here. We have a leaf just absolutely swarming with rust spore pustules, curling up in this crazy maze-like pattern. Right next to it, you can see those bright, unmistakable rust spots on a native goldenrod leaf. The really fascinating thing here is the visual consistency of the pathogen. The host plant might change entirely, going from an ornamental shrub in a manicured flower bed to a wild goldenrod out in a field, but the visual evidence? It remains remarkably consistent. It's always that vibrant rusty orange to deep brown spore cluster just bursting right through the plant's tissue.
If you do spot this evidence in your garden, take a deep breath. Here is a very reassuring piece of the puzzle. Rust doesn't typically kill its host. Your plant is more than likely going to survive the season. However, this fungus is a relentless thief. It totally hijacks the plant's resources. It drastically decreases overall plant vigor, and if it's attacking your fruit or vegetable crops, you better believe it will significantly decrease your yields. It essentially turns a thriving, highly productive plant into a struggling survivor.
Let's look at Section 4, how rust spreads.
How does this stuff get around so easily? Understanding the movement of this pathogen is exactly how we learn to intercept it and stop the cycle of infection. Rust spores are incredibly mobile. They are spread by wind, insects, rain, and animals. Nature itself provides the getaway vehicles for this fungus. A strong gust of wind can literally carry millions of microscopic spores right over the neighborhood fences. Splashing rain from a heavy thunderstorm, that can bounce spores from infected soil directly up onto the lower leaves of your perfectly healthy shrubs. Even a passing animal just brushing up against an infected leaf can transport the fungus to a brand new host. It's a highly efficient traveler, which is exactly why it's such a formidable opponent.
Finally, we reach Section 5, Prevention and Management Strategies.
This brings us to the most important part of our investigation: protecting our gardens. How do we defend against such an omnipresent threat? Well, the crucial point is that management is incredibly difficult, therefore prevention is absolutely key to your success. Let's walk through the daily best practices for garden sanitation. First up, you must relentlessly remove fallen, infected leaves to reduce the spread. Next, selectively prune your plants to encourage good airflow. A well-ventilated plant dries out quickly, and fungi absolutely despise dry environments. When you water, make sure you water deeply but less frequently, and critically, avoid wetting the foliage and stems altogether. Finally, always use sterile potting mix and make sure your tools are clean and sterile before and after every single use. We want to make the garden completely hostile to these fungal spores.
But what if the fungus is lurking right there in the soil itself? Well, you can use a heavy-duty preventative tactic called soil solarization. It's pretty cool, actually. You tightly cover the affected area of soil with clear plastic. Then you just let the intense sun heat up the soil for a couple of weeks. This naturally bakes the upper layers, dramatically reducing the amount of overwintering fungus. But keep in mind, after solarization, the soil is kind of like a blank slate. So it is vital that you reintroduce beneficial fungi and bacteria back into the ecosystem so you can rebuild a healthy, balanced soil profile.
So we've looked at the evidence, we've identified the culprit, and we've laid out our best defense strategies. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. In the lineup of garden suspects, are you just waiting around to treat the symptoms after the damage is already done, or are you going to take the necessary steps to prevent the crime before it ever happens? Armed with this knowledge, I know exactly which kind of botanical detective you'll be. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy gardening!